Hello, everyone. Namaste and greetings to all our friends who will be watching this special edition show. This episode is unusual also because we are recording it, one of our first ones in the 19 episodes that we have shared with you all. This is 19th episode. So we have brought to you top qualitists from the world, people who have distinguished themselves in the world of quality, excellence, transformation, innovation, that space. And the purpose, of course, is to make sure that we learn from people who have achieved something in this space and then take that message across to a larger audience. And in this endeavor, Kimpro Foundation is leading, and the term qualitist is being used to make sure that it covers all these areas. As you may know, and if you don't know, I can share with you that the term qualitist is used for the quality profession, and it was first coined by Dr. James Juran himself. And in India, Mr. Suresh Lulla, Kimpro Foundation's founder trustee, he has been evangelizing and living that word for a while. We all believe that our profession needs a term, the title, and qualities just suits us very well, like a doctor or an architect. That introduction, I will bring in my guest for today. On behalf of Kimpro Foundation, we have the honor of inviting Dawn Ringrose. I'll bring her into the stream in a minute, but let me first quickly give a short introduction. And Dawn is, of course, globally renowned quality and excellence professional. She's been Qualitist of the Month for January this year. But in terms of her background, she has a BSc specialization in psychology. She also has an MBA and a fellow certified management consultant, and of course, has several quality and excellence credentials. Wide experience, which will, of course, show in how she takes the questions. I'm looking forward to this conversation. But wide experience across large consulting firms, her own consulting business, of course, working with different size client organization across several industries sectors, transferring knowledge from one part of the world to another part, from one industry to another industry. Long career and highly distinguished one. And at this point, I can, of course, encourage you. If you haven't checked Dawn's LinkedIn profile, I would strongly recommend that you do. Her primary expertise lies in strategic and business planning and marketing, and of course, organizational excellence. So, throughout a very well rounded quality professional or a qualitist, and we have now the pleasure of inviting Dawn. Welcome, Dawn. Welcome to the show. Pleased to be talking to you. Any opening comments or anything you would like to say?
Well, first of all, thank you for the lovely introduction, Shimon. I really appreciate that. And in terms of my opening comments, I'd like to reflect back when I first met Mr. Suresh Lula at the Global Benchmarking Network. That's my connection to the Kimpro Group and the foundation, and the honor of being recognized as a qualitist. So those roots go relatively deep, and I'm very pleased to be part of this wonderful group of professionals. There's always so much that we can learn from and share with each other, and so I really value that relationship that I have with the group.
Well, it is totally our pleasure and honor, Don, to be speaking to you, to have you in the Qualitist group, and also to have you as the featured Qualitist for January. A little bit about the show and the Qualitist series. You have already seen some of the episodes earlier, so you know the format. But just for the benefit of audience and everybody else, this is an interview-based format. So I have some questions, some tough ones, and we will pose them to you on behalf of the foundation and also on behalf of the thousands of qualists who will watch this program. Okay, so with that, we'll get cracking. And first question we have for you on behalf of the foundation is that we know you today as a top globally renowned quality and excellence professional. But like all journeys, this is not where it started. The accomplishment that you can enjoy today and we can learn from you today, but this is not how it started. From psychology to quality to excellence, what happened? Tell us a little bit about your career and the career journey that you've had.
It was a very interesting evolution because I was back at university and I did my BSc and I was studying a lot of psychology. That was a specialization. And then I was also studying a lot about animal behavior, so human and animal behavior, and enjoying that very much. And then my next degree was a business degree. And I actually thought that what I had been studying in my science degree set me up quite well for business. And from there, I was particularly interested in the area of marketing. And so that's an area that I concentrated on when I did my MBA, as well as the other courses that you have to take. But my career started with the large firms. I started with Deloitte, and I worked with a firm called Panelker Forrester, and worked with KPMG for quite some time. And so working with the big firms, you do a variety of projects, and I really still enjoyed the marketing area, the planning area, strategic planning and business planning. And I gravitated towards doing a fair bit of work in customer service. And that was a real passion of mine. And the ongoing professional development in that area led me to learning more about ISO 9001 standard. And then from there, I discovered excellence models. And it's when I discovered excellence models that the stars really aligned for me, because this was an area that captured what we know about high performing organizations, what makes them tick. And it was like it brought together everything that I had been learning and doing. And I thought to myself, it was a wonderful discovery, because everything was there in one place. What are these practices that are common to high performing organizations, and wonderful definitions of them. So that work in the excellence model area really got my attention. And from there, that was way back in 1990 when the models were first being introduced. But I worked in that area with organizations using excellence models to either address the issues or to put a good management system in place. And from there, back in 2010, I wanted to contribute to the literature. So I wrote a publication, and then I've been developing a community of professionals that do work in this area. We do research in this area as well, and we do some publishing. So it's really turned into quite an undertaking, but it's something that has been such rewarding work. I absolutely love it. And I'm learning every day from the people around me, whether it's clients or it's other professionals. It's a profession that really keeps you on the learning curve, which I enjoy very much.
Awesome. And you've been very humble in how you've described a fantastic, lovely career, and there is a lot more in the career to come. But thank you, Don, for sharing this. And while you were speaking, I was reflecting that who in quality might not have started without ISO 9000. So I remember my own, of course, much later than when you started. I started around in early 90s, 94 or so to be precise, and I got very interested and intrigued with the ISO 9000. And for a couple of years, that was what quality meant, and very similar to how you described. Once I got hooked on to, at that time, the Baldrige program was just opening up, and we in India we didn't have too much information on the Baldrige program, but I started to get a little bit. I read a little bit about cost of poor quality, and then I said, oh, there is a lot more than what the ISO 9000 at that time included. Of course, the new versions are very inclusive and very detailed. So thank you first of all for sharing this and fantastic journey, and we'll see more. But moving on to our next, I won't call it a question, but area that we wanted to talk about, and I would like your views on this. That since you have consulted globally and have exposure to multiple large engagements as well in your career, what, according to you, are the key challenges that quality and excellence professionals today face? Of course, in every generation, every 5, 10 years, these challenges change. But
Yeah.
since you are very active even today, what, according to you, are the key challenges quality and excellence professionals face?
I think number one is their ability to speak to the C suite, the leaders in organizations, to be able to hold a conversation with them and keep their attention, maybe find themselves at the boardroom table. And I think that part of it is that quality professionals are very much, involved with certain approaches, tools, and techniques, and they have a tendency to go there in a conversation. And it is that sort of conversation is lost on the C suite or leaders in organizations. And I think that you really have to keep it simple, and you have to be focusing on the, what's in it for me in the leader's mind. And so you need to make sure that you keep it simple and straightforward and on target with what they're interested in. I think another challenge for the quality profession is that it's very fragmented. We've got approaches like ISO standards, we've got Lean and Six Sigma, various flavors of the week. And I think that you need to find a way to package this all together to get the attention, again, of leaders in organizations, because leaders in organizations can be very confused about the plethora of solutions available to them. Not just quality professionals, but management consultants and others that are selling what they think the organization might like to buy. And really, when you talk to leaders, they're very confused about all these options, and they don't know which way to turn. And I think that we could do ourselves a big favor by simplifying things and maybe working a bit more collaboratively to get a succinct message across about the work that we do and the value that it brings. And to me, it's a lot of it is about collaborating to compete, because there's a lot of business solutions out there being offered. And so how do you distinguish what it is quality or excellence offers?
The part around fragmented got me, thinking, because this is something that we have struggled as well in my own career, as well as a consultant, and as a practitioner. I find that even amongst quality professionals, and that's probably where the confusion starts, because we are confused. We end up confusing the top management, and there is a old saying which says that if you have a hammer in hand, everything is a nail. So people who are selling, for example, Six Sigma, will want to say that it will solve everything. People who are selling ISO will want to say it will solve everything, and you get the point. So I have seen this firsthand, including being guilty of doing it myself.
Mhm.
And only much later in my career, I realized that the top leadership, and Mr. Lula actually explains it really well. He says the top leadership is looking at higher revenue, lower cost, satisfied customers, and engaged employees. These are the four things Juran
Mhm.
taught us. That if your solution is not looking at these four things, it does not matter. So I'm glad you brought it out so clearly, that quality professionals and the methods that we bring to the table are fragmented. There have been attempts to put together a maturity continuum, but we can't say that there is one today. Many other professions have a clear roadmap. We don't. Moving on, and what in your view can be done to bring back, uh, bring quality and excellence back to the senior leaders table and help it thrive? Assumption, of course, is that it has fallen off the table a little bit in the last few years. If you don't agree with that assumption, your views are welcome. And if you do agree with that assumption that it has fallen off the radar a little bit, what can be done to bring it back, especially at the leadership table?
Yes, I think leaders want to have a strategic conversation. All about them and their organization and what they want to achieve. So you've got to hone in on the vision, the mission, the values, the goals and objectives, and you've got to find out what issues are keeping them up at night, and
Yeah.
then be able to convey how you can help address those issues. And you have to make sure that you're using the language of business. A lot of the terms that are used in quality aren't going to fly. You have to be able to have just a good conversation using the language of business with leaders. And to me, whenever I've worked with a leader in an organization, my mindset is it's all about me helping them with that issue that's keeping them up at night, me helping them to shine, and me being ultimately a trusted advisor that they look to, after they've met with some good results. And so it's developing that relationship with leaders.
Any examples in your career where you felt that you moved from quality or excellence being off the table, and then you were able to bring it back to the position of trusted advisor, like you shared. You can, of course, keep brand names off if, because that may not be useful.
I think I'm a little bit different from some of the other qualitists in that I'm a certified management consultant. I've been doing this for 40 years. And so what we do is we lead with strategy. Do you
Hmm.
know when you go in and you talk to a leader and you're getting to know a leader of an organization, you talk to them about their organization and what's going well, what needs to improve, what is it they're looking at achieving over the next year, 2, 3 years. And inevitably you'll come across some issues, that they're struggling with. And leaders, it can be very lonely in that office, that CEO office, because all the employees are looking at them for answers and direction, but they don't necessarily have all the answers. And they're trying their best to take the organization in a given direction. And I think that they really value if you can provide some assistance to them to help them be successful and help them iron out some of the things in the organization that aren't working so well. So it's to me, you become, and if you work with them and you can go into an assignment, let's say doing a strategic planning session with an organization, and you can plant some of the excellence or quality seeds in that session, and you can work on these sorts of things without maybe using the terms, and before you know it, they're getting good results and they're enjoying the work that you're doing. So I'm often very careful just to try to focus on the language of business, not toss in a lot of the buzzwords that we use in quality, and just keep the conversation on their organization and what they're trying to achieve and how I can help them with it.
Hmm. I think the without the jargon part or without using the terms that we all have been guilty of, and I learned my lesson some years ago that all this is not making sense to the senior leaders, so
Yeah.
unless we can talk in terms of either sales or revenue or savings or something specific, it does not make much sense. So I'm glad you brought it out that way. Coming from you with so much experience makes even more sense. Don, what I'll do is that we received a lot of questions for this show, and I have tried to summarize some of them. I'll take one question from there now. Now, the basic premise is that Six Sigma is not as popular as it used to be. It is probably out of favor. People don't talk about it much. But what do you think went wrong? Where do you think things went wrong for Six Sigma? If in your opinion, they did go wrong.
Yeah. I think Six Sigma is one of those things that's been perceived to be very expensive for
Mhm.
people earning their credentials and also for organizations working on projects. And it's also quite complex. And I really believe you have to keep it simple. You have to keep things simple and straightforward so everybody in the organization understands what's going on, from staff through management up to leadership. And so
Mhm.
I think that I've watched organizations dive into Six Sigma and then hop right out again because of those reasons. I think that's largely it.
I can relate to the expensive part certainly, because I get a lot of questions from colleagues saying that I want to do a certification, globally renowned certification in Six Sigma, and when you convert, of course, dollar prices to Indian rupees, it becomes even more expensive. So you are in a in a dollar region. So there you go. People who ask this question, this is the expert's answer, and like everything else that she's been able to share till now, the focus is on simplicity. Keep the jargon out. Be useful. I was trying to keep a count of the word help that you used, Don. So the dominant word in the first 15 minutes of what you said was help. So
Yeah,
you are extremely, your entire philosophy seems to be help the senior leadership get results. So
absolutely.
that, yeah, so that as a listener, as an audience right now, that was striking a chord with me, that That word seems to be dominant in your dictionary. Thank you for that. I will revert to now some of the questions that we had previously prepared for you. One of them is around the future of quality and excellence. So we are where we are in terms of quality and excellence. The subject has had a long history. Even the modern history of quality and excellence is from the you know Second World War times, because that's where the subject actually blossomed, because the need for quality was significant at that time, and it had a good run. Then excellence related topics have evolved. So the subject has been around for about, let us say, 75 years, or maybe a little bit more than that, in the modern sense. Of course, as a ancient sense, it has been around for centuries, but in the modern sense, around 75 odd years. From your vast experience, how you can see things and your global experience, what do you see as future of quality and excellence?
I think the future is one of using an integrated model in organizations. We've seen that in ISO standards. Organizations might be using a number of ISO standards, and they want to an integrated approach, right? In excellence models, well, that's always delivered that. I mean, you've got this nice big umbrella of over which you've got all these best management practices under it. You've got the ability to weave in what we do in quality within that. And you've got an interrelated, interconnected management system. And and what I love about the excellence models is that when you put these practices in place, you help an organization quite quickly develop a culture that's really committed to excellence, and then to go on to achieve exceptional results across a balanced system of measurement. And I think to myself that it's also very adaptable to an organization, because every organization has got a different game plan, you know. They're working on their own vision, mission, goals, and objectives, values that they want to be part of their culture. And so you have to make sure that when you're working with them to put an excellence model in place, that it's a good fit for them. And the excellence model allows that flexibility, because it's just a matter of putting good practices in place and striving for better and better results, and making sure that you've got this culture, these people that want to work together towards a common aim of making the better and better. So, and I think you've got to meet the organization where they are, because they've got some strengths. And so you've got to take a look at, well, where are the opportunities for improvement? And that's where you have to focus your energy. And I also think that you have to really engage and involve the people in the organization when you do that work, because there's a lot of suggestions and ideas and a lot of knowledge and skill and talent that can be harnessed. And by doing that, you can really accelerate that journey, or that improvement journey, to quite a great extent, by engaging and involving people.
That's a unexpected answer, I would say, because usually when I ask this question, Don, we get some new thing like Six Sigma or something thrown at us. What I loved about your response, and that comes from experience, is that you are breaking it down, simplifying it, saying that whatever is the future of quality and excellence, it has to be flexible, adaptable, it has to help the senior leadership, it has to solve for the company, it has to bring people together, which is the way we should look at future, because we do not know the exact shape and size of future,
Yeah.
but we can certainly know that what could be the boundary conditions of that future. So you are saying that flexible, adaptable, help them solve their deepest problems, keep people together, involve leadership. Now these four or five boundary conditions, or you can say parameters, are not going away. They are foundations of quality and excellence, and they stay. I love that breaking down of the future. So thanks Don for that. I will take one more question from the audience pool that we got, and this one is about the work, not specifically your work with the American Society for Quality, but your activity, and you are quite active with the ASQ. Any views on making ASQ more relevant globally, and of course more popular outside of the US? One of the big, I would say, issues with ASQ has always been that uh, they have taken the A part very seriously, and it has remained American Society for Quality, in spite of the fact that the world is much larger and broader.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I joined ASQ, I was, because I have a management consulting background and the body of knowledge we use covers most of the bases when it comes to excellence models. But where we're deficient is in the work processes area, do you know? And that's where ASQ is very, very good, because that's where most of their body of knowledge is on work processes, and how do you develop, design them, and control and monitor and improve them, and an awful lot of what they have at ASQ focuses on that. And my involvement there has been with the Organizational Excellence Technical Committee, and that's where there's an executive team of us that represent different excellence models around the world, and we are there to help create more awareness and appreciation for excellence models. But I've also served on the QMD Council. And when I was there, I was taking a look at the body of knowledge, and I was noticing what kind of content there was and what else there could be. And in adding to the body of knowledge, what I did was I shopped the world of subject matter experts, and I asked people to contribute. And I asked people not just from the quality profession, but others from the management consulting profession too, that specialize in certain areas, like on the leadership side of things, or the employee side of things, or governance, or what have you, so that they could bring content forward. And I'm a real believer that we have to take a look at quality and excellence, not just through the eyes of the quality or excellence professional, but through these other people that are working in organizations. Any leadership team they've got the CEO, they maybe have the chief operating officer, they've got someone overseeing human resources, maybe information technology, marketing, finance, they're all looking at quality through their lens. And so what does it mean to them? And I think these perspectives are really, really important. And so my thinking is that you don't just have such a narrow focus, you have to really open it up to appreciate these different stakeholders. If you're sitting around the boardroom table, or you're sitting at a leadership meeting with people that are wearing these different hats, you've really got to take a minute to think to yourself, what is it like to be in their shoes? Do you know? What is it they're looking for? And that's another reason I love excellence models, because as you look at these about 100 practices in an excellence model, as you look at them, there are practices there that align very nicely with these different perspectives that we see. So that's another thing. I think that ASQ is, they've got a kind of an updated vision statement where they want to, more of a relationship between quality and excellence. And quality is, to me, is a subset of excellence. Excellence has this huge umbrella and so many practices within it, and the quality portion is a subset. And I think it's really important that people see where it fits in the whole scheme of things. And that also excellence models really are a mirror of what goes on in management consulting too. And so I think that, taking a look at those two kind of bodies of knowledge or schools of thought are really, really important, because it enables us to have more of a strategic conversation, number one. It enables us to take a look at all these interrelated, interconnected practices that are the organization, or the system that is an organization. And then we've got our tools and our techniques and our various approaches and so forth to use. But I think that it is wise to look at a much bigger picture, than we have traditionally.
Very fair. I agree on most of this stuff because I've been associated with ASQ for a long time, and I do believe that, in fact, in the past, I've spoken about that maybe ASQ should become Global Society for Excellence. And it's been around 75 years. It's okay to change the name to and the vision statement. So ASQ to become GSE or something. And there's not much in the name, but I do believe that there is something in the name that limits its agenda a little bit.
Mhm.
But we will. So I hope the person who asked this question got some answers. Of course, not the response is not in any official capacity, so I must clarify that
Yeah.
this is an opinion that as quality professionals we share, and I'm sure if ASQ itself is asked this question, they will have another response, but that's for another day. We are now in the last quarter of the show, so 15 odd minutes done, and I would like to utilize it, making sure that we ask you everything that we plan to ask. The other area that, apart from the future of quality and excellence, which we spoke about, I wanted to understand if somebody is getting into quality and excellence today, a young professional, any part of the world, what would your advice be to him or her in making a career in quality and excellence?
Well, I think they have to think about the kind of work they really want to do. Do you know? Number one. And for myself as an example, I mean, I just knew coming out of university, I wanted to be a management consultant. And I think that was because I liked doing research and writing and, making presentations and that sort of thing. So that was something that really appealed to me. But that said, other people may not like that sort of work and they might think, gee, I like the look of auditing, being an auditor. I think first, once you decide on tried a few things and you've kind of landed on what you want to do, then you want to get the necessary certifications. And those certifications, they could be professional certifications like a certified management consultant, or it could be quality certifications that are available. Or if you're working in ISO, getting your lead auditor and so forth. But in the excellence field, I think some of the wonderful places to learn more about excellence would be from the award applications that organizations submit for the various national award programs that we have around the world. And Baldrige is probably the best place to find award applications. Reading through those applications is just a wealth of knowledge, because they tell the story about how an organization has what they've done on their improvement journey to get to the place that they are today. And by the time you receive an award with regards to an excellence model, you've put it in place, you've been getting sustainable results across a balanced system of measurement for at least 3 years. So it's quite a journey. It's a number of years getting there. But I think the award applications are a real education in themselves because it tells the story for each and every one of these organizations about how they got to be where they are today. And there's an incredible amount of learning there.
Well, thank you. Especially, I hope the young professionals wanted to learn from Dawn can see the pattern. Everything is about simplicity for her. Everything is about having a process, focusing on the right outcomes and results. It is not about the tools that you will learn. It is not about the method. Of course, they are important, but that's not the outcome. I liked how you opened, Dawn, that what do you want to do? People have to be able to young, and in fact, why young? Everybody has to know why are they doing what they are doing. There's one question that on behalf of Kimper Foundation that we always ask our guests is about what are you reading these days. So what books are you reading? What would you recommend to our audience? Because some people actually watch this show to also build their reading list.
Yes, I'd like to talk about a few of my favorites if I can. First and foremost, Mr. Suresh Lula and
Ah,
his quality fables. I just absolutely love these fables because there's such wonderful learning in each and every one of them and really important things to reflect. Another book that is a little older, but I absolutely love is Ideas Are Free by Alan Robinson and Dean Schroeder. And that's just tapping the ideas and suggestions that you have within an organization, because that's where a lot of the improvement will come from. Another one is called The Healthy Scorecard, and that's by Danielle Pratt. And she talks about how important it is to look after your employees. And if you do a good job of looking after your employees and you do have a healthy workplace, that it can make a real difference to the results you get as well. Because I think it's quite well known, if we look after our employees, they'll look after the customer, right? And if they look after the employees, they're going to retain the employees, and they're not going to take. You're not going to be letting all that knowledge and skill walk out the door. There's a couple of books also that are written by a fellow named Matthew Syed, and one of them is Bounce, and the other one is Black Box Thinking. And he was a table tennis champion. And so the book about Bounce was all about developing that mindset of excellence, continual improvement, about getting better and better and better, you know. And then the second book on Black Box Thinking, this was a little bit more directly related to the work that we do in excellence. And so I found his books absolutely fascinating and really well written, very easy to read. And he's even got a YouTube videos, TED Talk and things like that that are really good, you know, so people can go to that and listen to what he has to say. And of course, The Toyota Way, that is a book that, you know, I read quite some time ago, but I really liked it. I really loved learning about how the kind of system that Toyota put in place, you know, and the results that they were able to get from it. So that was a real favorite as well. But I think in total, these books that I like to read, I mean, I read Dare to Lead by Brene Brown too. I mean, I take a look at management books in general. I just don't focus on quality or excellence. I mean, I'm trying to learn as much as I can about the different aspects or key management areas in an organization that are part of an excellence model, you know, whether it's governance or leadership or planning or customers or what have you. So that's why I think my reading list is quite varied, you know, or what appeals to me.
I'm glad it is, and that's the thing about reading, that if you read only one area, then you only sharpen one saw, but there are more tools. And just like when you were mentioning, I realized that over the last few years, and actually Mr. Lula pointed this out to me, I had not realized this, that my interest has moved from only quality related topics to the human aspect of it, why people do something that they do. So most of the stuff that I've been reading in the last few years has been about things like Adam Grant's books, and of course Brené Brown's books, Carol Dweck, and quite a few other mindset related books. And I can't show you my books around, so I'm surrounded by some. But I did realize that somewhere as the career progresses, I while the tools and methods and techniques are fine, there is a reason people do something and don't do something. Unless we tap into that, we can't really achieve quality outcomes, so or excellence outcomes in that sense. So I'm glad you shared a very varied interest in reading, and I hope our audience are able to get 2 points. One, of course, your reading list, and second, that you need to have a varied reading list if you want to build some skill set in this space. So thanks, Don, for that response. With that, I will try and wrap up the show. Don, it has been fantastic, and I would say a personal honor and privilege to be able to speak to you and also record this show. The I have no doubt at all that this will be one of our most watched ones. The way you broke down the concept of excellence and quality is amazing. Of course, it takes a lot of experience and hard work that has brought you where you are. And like Mr. Lula always says, the toughest part is to make something simple. So you've been able to simplify it for us, and I'm so glad that we were able to speak. But any closing remarks before we close the show?
Yes, I've got a few. I think that I love to use this phrase that excellence models provide a formula for success. And whether I've read about it in the research or I've experienced it with the organizations that I've worked with, if you implement these best management practices, you develop a culture committed to excellence and go on to achieve exceptional results across a balanced system of measurement. It's tried and true. And I think that the work that we do in this area is particularly exciting because if you can improve the performance of an organization, that organization could scale it in a community to several organizations. Those organizations are going to contribute to the economy, to the trade, and all of this trickles down into quality of life. So I think it's very powerful when you think about the work that we do and the impact that it has. And so I think I'd like to conclude with that, because that's the thing that gets me out of bed every morning and gets me diving into the work that I do, because it's just extremely rewarding.
I'm so glad you ended with that, Dawn, because that's true for all of us, and that should be true for all of us, because unless we are excited about what we're doing, we will not do a good job.
Yeah.
Forget quality, forget excellence. If we don't like what we do, if we are not driven, we are not doing our best. With that, I'll close. But before I close, I want a quick reminder to share. I've on the screen you can see kimpro.org. This is the website where Kimpro Foundation and all its related material are there. We often get questions from the audience, Don, that how can I become a qualitist? So people who want to become a qualitist, please visit kimpro.org and you will find all the information that is required. It is an application based credential, so you will have to apply and share what you have done, and there will be a panel of reviewers who will decide on that. So those who are interested can go there. The other is that this show is of course available on YouTube, and very soon all the archives will also be available on one single channel. So please do take some time to watch the previous shows. With that, Don, thank you very much for sparing this time. And on behalf of Mr. Lula, Kipro Foundation, thank you very much. And we will look forward to speaking to you again.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.